Yeah, maybe final thing. So, where technical is the role of how to grant different decisions and make your own decisions. And the governance process is set up in a way that you take the minimum need of the collective into account with getting your attention solved, right? Through a couple of steps. It's not safe enough to have one role, even the lead link role, to make autocratic decisions on the governance structure of the circle. Could also have been a solution for Holacracy, right? That we said the lead link, him or herself, can autocratically define the governance of the circle. No governance meetings, great, let the lead link figure it out. Instead, we said there's a governance process, everyone can make governance proposals if it helps you on a role, but then you need to follow those steps, even the lead link. So this is like the minimum burden to create a governance process, just like Andrew said, to stand up in Parliament and say, hey, this is my proposal. How do we need to process that at the minimum level to get to some good governance? Let's move into the lead link. What have I prepared? What's here? The lead link has 6 accountabilities. I just wanted to run through them. Who's lead link? Let's start with that. Who has a lead link role? Good. What can you expect from a lead link? What does it still do, right? Because the lead link is kind of a former manager, but it also isn't. Can you, as a lead link, really play into the lead link role and just the lead link? Let's see if we can keep that boundaries, that role really clear. You happy to stay, by the way, if you're not lead link, right? That's not why I put in that question. But no,
you might be lead link soon, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. So what I want you to do is run through each of those accountabilities and get a couple of examples of what you do to enact those accountabilities. And then finally take a bit more time about the last accountability around priorities and strategies. The lead link only has one domain, role assignments within the circle. So that domain you can claim as lead, you can say I and I alone until there's a policy that says otherwise. I control that. Any other of the accountabilities, everybody else can do. Right? For example, the first one, structuring the governance of the circle to enact its purpose and accountabilities. You as the GrantTree, if you're the lead link of this circle, you take work into the circle. And from the outside, the circle is a black box. So if you look at it from the outside, you as lead link are just a role filler. It looks like you have the purpose and the accountabilities as defined for the circle. People don't care how you organize it as a circle internally, but from the outside, it's just a role that takes care of work. How you as a lead link do that with this first accountability? If you know the circle has a purpose and accountabilities, you create roles that kind of cover those accountabilities. If you as a lead link once a month or once every few weeks or whenever there's a governance change that affects the boundary of your circle, you work on this accountability to come up with proposals that kind of take care those accountabilities are covered or that purpose is covered. Anybody in the circle can do a proposal to change roles and policies within the circle, but we can also expect it from the lead link. We expect from the lead link that every now and then they put some attention to this accountability and say, hey, wait, is the structure within our circle the best way to get our purpose done, to take care of what the rest of the organization expects from us?
So, could you, for example, put a project on the link, which is on the lead link, which is in line with his or her accountabilities?
You mean put it on the circle?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I know that you're not allowed to put kind of projects on the lead links. I'm just wondering how that would work. If you feel like, oh, I think there's something here that would work better, I'd like to kind of gently force the lead link to kind of put some time to think into this. What would you do then?
Yeah, definitely do so. And you can do it from the inside and you can do it from the outside. If you're part in the GCC, this is, Andrew, you are leading learning operations or something like that?
Recruitment or learning training,
yeah. So in the GCC, if you as sales and marketing have a need for 2 more people with sales capabilities, give Andrew, as recruitment, the project 2 new sales capable people hired. That's just a project you put here on the boundary of the source. Say, Andrew, in your role of recruitment, I expect you, I want this from you. And from the outside, this is just a role. Within your GCC, it doesn't matter if you address one of your roles here or you address a circle. Because
yeah, I'm thinking more about situations. So I'm part of SNM Cycle and Jason is the lead link.
yeah.
And for example, I feel that perhaps we should be better organized. So what is the formal way? Obviously, you can go and chat in, but what's the formal way of saying, can you look at this accountability, please, and maybe redesigning our circle?
Yeah. So exactly, from the inside, if you're a member of the sales and marketing circle, you can make a proposal yourself. And at the same time, if you read role, you can expect this from the leading. So you can ask you can make the proposal, I don't feel like this, let it go. You can ask the lead link for a project that says, accountability X of the circle clarified in our governance. Or the tension there is between 2 roles about to overlap solved. And you can propose it yourself, but you can expect from the lead link that they give attention that there's a good working structure within the circle. And nothing holds you back from proposing it yourself, but hey, if you're like, I don't know the solution, ask the lead link, because you can expect, based on this accountability from the lead link, to have a view on that. If you spend 1 hour a week as lead link, then a couple of minutes is our structure right, it's probably a good thing. Holacracy works really well if everybody takes care of their roles. If I just look at my roles, what's the purpose and accountability, so if I take care of that, then I know everything else is captured. And this is one of those things. You expect from the lead link that every now and then they give attention to, hey, are we structured in the right way to enact our purpose? So yeah, definitely give the lead link work. The only thing you cannot do is add accountabilities to it. But within those accountabilities, you can give work. It's just a role in that sense, right? So this is what you see here. You see the lead link making governance proposals, or handing out work. And if we give Andrew as recruitment from out the GCC or whatever he decides to take up hiring X, Y, Z, he could do it himself, but he could also hand it then through to any of the roles that are accountable for it within the circle. Second accountability, assigning partners to the circle's roles. So you can assign someone. You are accountable also for monitoring the fit. You're not their people manager, you don't do their career planning, but you are accountable that there's a good fit between the roles and the people that fill that roles. And you can solve that by offering feedback. You can also solve it by restructuring. If you suddenly have a much more senior person filling a role, you can expand accountabilities. You can reduce the role relationship between the circles. And you can go in 2 ways to really enhance the fit between the people and the roles you have in your circle. And eventually you could reassign roles. And you think that enhances the fit between the people and the roles. You are accountable for this. You can take up a project as lead link, everybody given at least 2 times feedback on their roles. But it doesn't prevent other people from giving feedback, right? Typically, other roles in the circle have a much better view about how others are performing, because you need each other much more to get work done than you typically need to lead link. But as a lead link, you're accountable that you have the right people for the right roles.
There's 2 things that jump to mind for me, one of which is there was a thing from the H1 training where they were like, how do you know if someone's a good fit for a role? And it's like, the sort of test in lab is like, can they process the tensions of that role effectively, right? So a role that's kind of, you know, more quote unquote strategic in scope, what will be a more kind of senior role in a traditional organisation, just has tensions of a different order of complexity than a more junior or frontline or whatever we want to call it kind of role. So it's like, given the things that need to get done in this role, given the tensions that need to be processed, does this person have that? And the other thing that springs to mind is that Gallup, the survey organisation, wrote a book called First Break All the Rules, where they surveyed something like 1 million people over the course of a decade about what is the difference between excellent managers and merely good or okay managers. And they discovered that one of the key things that in organisations, in all different sectors, what stands out for people who are excellent managers is that they do this, is that they fit people to roles effectively, recognising that different people have different talents. You know, like different people are suited, given who they are at this point in time, different people are suited to different roles. So getting good at this bit of managing, this is a really key business goal, and there's a lot of data to demonstrate.
If you do this right, assigning the right people to the right roles, and giving them every now and a bit of feedback, you can step away and let them handle those roles a lot more than if you've done this sloppy.
I kind of really want to add to this as well, that often this is thought of as, okay, I have these roles, which people do I fit to these roles, but it's also part of the process of creating the right roles to fit the people that you have there. Because you have certain business needs, you can structure things in such a way that it makes sense from one perspective, but doesn't make sense from the perspective of the people that you actually have available. Or you can structure things so that it takes advantage of the talents of the people that you have available to you, and still serves the work. And maybe it serves work like 1% less well than this ideal role structure that you have, but because it actually fits the people really well, you get way more than 1% payback from having people in the right roles, but also making the roles fit the people slightly rather than.
Who as leading has already offered feedback and done that kind of stuff? You guys here have a formal mentoring process and all that kind of things?
I've offered feedback, not as formal mentoring yet.
Yeah, likewise. And as leading, you don't want to get really involved in the work and start tracking people's actions and tasks and getting involved in how they do it. But giving good feedback that people really grow into their roles, definitely a thing you can do as leading. It makes your work as a holder of the boundary of the circle a lot easier if people grow into their roles. On a role-specific basis, that's what this accountability says. If you have a cleaner circle, a circle that's accountable for cleaning the office building, I love that the lead link is not a manager that is good in managing cleaners. I love that the lead link is the super cleaner, and the cleaner who has the most experience in the cleaning work. If you don't clean yourself as a lead link, it's kind of weird that you are the cleaner. And you're kind of a co-worker in that sense, but you have a sense of what the whole area means, and you can bring that whole area forward, and you can structure roles in a way that everybody contributes to bring that whole area to a higher level. And then giving feedback is very important, right? You're not the outsider that doesn't understand the work. You are the guy that holds the whole area. Hopefully you attract people in roles that are much better at that space than you yourself. But then still there could be value in giving feedback on how they interact within the circle, how they contribute to the bigger stuff, whatever it is, right? What kind of feedback would bring your circle to a higher level? Defining metrics. It's a small thing, but as a circle in every tactical meeting you look at metrics. The idea behind it is that if you have metrics that really put visibility on how your purpose is progressing, kind of makes your life as leading pretty easy, right? If you, for 10 minutes a week, would just look at the metrics of your circle and then decide if you would join the meeting or not. Are your metrics set up in such a way that if you look at it once a week that you're comfortable at least that your circle is progressing in the right direction? And does it really track progress towards purpose? And you can have a lot of metrics on efforts, on input stuff, on quantitative, qualitative stuff, but you can measure outputs. What is the list of metrics you define for your circle, really creating transparency on how the circle is doing, how it's moving forward towards its purpose? That's your goal. Can you come up with those metrics that put everybody at ease that this circle is moving in the right direction? And you're self-steering as a circle, but also as rules within the circles. Metrics can help a lot with that. If you don't have the right metrics, you start poking into circles a lot more. Hey, how is this going? How is that going? If you don't feel at ease about how the work is progressing, metrics are a great way to add visibility on that. And you can do that with project updates as well. Ask people for specific outcomes and then ask for project updates and things like that. Then you're getting much more active, involved in the work as lead link. Sometimes that's needed, but sometimes some good metrics are good enough.
I find this bit really interesting in terms of like GrantTree's Holacracy practice, because this is like, I think reflecting our kind of organisational personality, this sort of stuff that you're talking about here, like be clear with people on like, oh, what's your projection for this? What's the metric for this? This is the stuff that we're not very good at, right? This kind of, you know, like I've been talking in like fundamentals in recent weeks about, you know, the balance between openness and closedness. And we're very good at openness. We're very driven to, like, let's not define anything, let's just have it all be a bit of a mess, because that's where creativity comes. And actually,
also, that's the key founders' flaws.
Yeah, totally.
Reflected you in the organisation.
Totally. And one of the reasons why we are now adopting Holacracy is to start to say, oh, can we start to put in place a little bit of closeness to balance that and get the sweet spot between the two? Part of the, where we have a discomfort with the closeness, and in particular it's about engaging with this. I think if we look at the organisational scan, the sort of free text comments, or the sections that we don't do so well at, it was all about, you know, planning for the future and being methodical and checking in on the things that we said that we were going to do. And I find it really interesting that when we did the anchor circle stuff, you know, like in the old days, with the project planning sheets, you know, there was this really strong drive. Yeah, we really want to know what the projects are and where they are, and we want these things to be tracked in a measurable way. We really, really want this. And then now we're sort of in our Holacracy practice, people are like, oh, not the metrics review. Oh, I don't want to have to say metrics. And it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, isn't that weird that we have this like...
Not specified.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't done those, those aren't really the way that I want to track it. And it's like, okay, well, how do you want to track it? Like, what are the things that you can do which will show you that you're on track? You know, if we want to get more systematic, and we want to introduce that closeness, it doesn't come naturally to us as an organisation. It is going to feel bumpy. But as lead links, we have to say, you know, it's part of our job to set those. We have to go out and like take on that discomfort on behalf of the organisation. Come on down.
And the metrics are meant to raise tensions, right, in tactical meetings. They're meant to put you at ease as lead link. That if you look at them, it's like, oh, right, I can sleep in for another week, I'll go on holiday and check in back later. At the same time, if there are no tensions raised in meetings about metrics, reduce the frequency. Right? Maybe you don't need to look at it weekly. Maybe monthly is enough. And that even the frequency you look at those metrics does a lot already to the focus and amount of tensions being raised based on that. And then you can see going either way, right? You can say, well, we actually, if you look at this weekly, we get much more focus on it. Or when you look at it monthly, you take one moment to do it properly, then every week, yeah, quickly, no, okay, no tension, let's move forward. That's the kind of choices you can make as a lead link. What's the right frequency to look at those metrics? If the metrics are boring, you might have a tension to change the frequency of actually looking at it. It feels valuable the moment you look at it. This one is interesting. Allocating the circle's resources across its various projects and or roles.
We try to do that, and we find that it was difficult to enforce it because it's really... That combined with people's freedom and trusting people to allocate their own resources, I think there's a mismatch there. Like, to what extent can you actually say, guys, like, we need sales for yesterday, let's just do this. And I feel like whenever I say that, I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't be. And I have gotten some feedback where it felt like, oh, you're not trusting us, that we've been
Dictating
kind of
it.
working on it.
Yeah.
We've been working on it in the background for a few months, and I'm like, I do see that. I just have a huge tension around it. So it's like, how do you find a balance between you trusting people to do what they do, but also like I'm feeling there's this massive priority or massive tension, and how much can you actually push yourself within people's working patterns and how they choose to allocate their time. So how much can you influence, on a week-to-week basis, what time they're going to spend doing, let's say, direct sales as opposed to other things? Because you can't really, you're not going to be standing there and just saying, oh, are you doing sales, as you said you would. You're not going to be doing that. So in practice, it's been difficult for us, this one.
Yeah. And the question is immediately, how valuable is it to start dictating every 15 minutes of people's time, right?
Exactly.
How much you could definitely put a policy in place to do that.
It's probably not very nice.
But how much of the benefits of Holacracy do you still get if you start controlling work on that kind of level still? And then Article 1.3 is pretty limited for a space of 14 minutes. How fast can you go as a Ferrari, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's on one side it's a safety mechanism. So, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this might be better for projects rather than like ongoing work or rules. But there's a feature in Blastfrog where you can set the like priority for a project, and then you could also use a measure to indicate how much time it would take. So you end up with this sort of ratio of, this is a 5-minute task and will get us, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 5 benefit, or it's a 1-hour task and will only get us 2 out of 5 benefit.
There's no requirements. For each project you can know the impact and the time or the resource at stake, and
but then it's up to people to implement it.
But so
you could do that as a group, right? As a group you could decide together what is the ROI of each project that you have ongoing as a circle, and that's not really dictating, but at least sort of aligning priorities.
So I have a question. Did you have any specific projects that you wanted people to do, or actions that you wanted people to do, or just in general, let's do more sales?
No. So we got together and we discussed how we're going to try alternative or plan B type of approach to sales when the sales are low. So we spoke, for example, about events.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that a list that Alessandro Pippa have created. I put a project for everybody to attend 2 events in no specific timeline with BizDev in mind. So that could be an example of a project, for example. But obviously I can't go.
And then people didn't attend the
No. It's still in progress.
Okay.
It's still in progress. I'm not trying to come in here saying, oh, this wasn't done or that was. But I'm just wondering, how do I?
So you can prioritize it.
Yeah, like
you can ask the lead link to prioritize it, or you can directly set a priority.
I have a couple of remarks to make. So that's because there are different elements in this. So the priority part is in this accountability. This accountability, allocating the surplus resources, is primarily meant because if you check my authority, at the bottom it says, are you spending resources on behalf of the organization? There's a safety mechanism built into Holacracy. You can do whatever you want, but you cannot spend resources of the organization. So spending money is initially not part of your authority. It says you have to ask the lead link's approval to spend money or resources.
We got rid of
By
that.
default.
We got rid of that.
Exactly, up to the point you have a policy that says otherwise. Because if you do this, typically the lead link gets pretty soon pretty crazy about approving every single expense of money. So you create a spending policy. You guys have one that's pretty extensive, have up to £500 up to £200 a week. You guys can move a long way until you need then finance or the lead link's approval. But you can ask the lead link for budget. That's what's governed in the Constitution, and so you either have the spending policy or you can use the hierarchy of lead links. And that's what this accountability says. Allocating a share of resources across its various projects and roles. So you see that in the budget money part. If you have high priorities as lead link, as has.
By the way, I'm not a lead line. I just feel a strong tension. I feel a strong tension.
Convince people. And what's the why behind it? Typically, without going into policies and stuff like that, this solves a lot. Why is that so important to me? And if someone's accountable, if it serves someone's purpose, they're typically happy to help out. But are your arguments convincing enough? Then the third thing is transparency. I like the ROI example. If everybody fills in for their projects their ROI, it's pretty transparent on why stuff is more important than other stuff. It's just a method to become more convincing. You can have the discussion certainly of why does that take so much time and the ROI is low, or why do we all agree that the impact is so low? But it's just a mechanism to make people's roles transparent, what they're doing and how they're prioritizing their time. Transparency can help solve a lot of these issues. Another resource is your time. One way to go is to dictate people's 50 minutes time slots. It's a bit unholacratic, right? So there are alternative policies to it. You see now examples emerging. I worked a lot with an attention point policy that says the lead link can allocate attention currency to roles, and as a role filler you cannot spend, averaged out over a couple of months, more of your attention than these points represent. So you can do whatever you do in your role, but you cannot spend excessive more time on it. If sales and marketing is equivalent to a half person's time, that circle does a lot of different things than where sales and marketing was 10 people's equivalent time, right? So this is resource allocation. It does a lot in priorities and where attention of the whole organization is going. In a small team, you typically say, hey guys, this is important, let's run. You don't need this kind of resource allocation. Resource allocation is much more done with powerful stories or with just putting the priorities right. On a project by project basis, have a short discussion, and you're all aligned on where to spend your attention. But sometimes such a policy can help. And you don't start dictating every people's 15 minutes, but you can say like, well, this role represents 10 points. You kind of create an internal market of supply and demand of attention. You guys are 30 people, so let's say we the whole organization is 3,000 points of attention.
And how do you do that, the point system?
Just like the Federal Reserve does with money. You print it, or you take it out of the market. So, and let's say there's a role in the broader circle, in the anchor circle, or the lead link of the anchor circle is accountable for printing attention. And it says, this month we have 3,000 attention points to spend.
Whoa.
Oh, that's so cool.
I like that. But that would be anchor circle's lead's responsibility.
Yeah, or you create a role for it, and a money printer, or whatever you want, right? You can start from the lead link. And so the lead link every month says, well, sales and marketing 50, grants is 1,000, tax credits is 1,500. There's this role here that's 350, and I have 100 here. That's it. And now you get an internal market to work. Now the lead link of grants can say, well, if I have a lead link for the circle 1,000, then within my circle, I allocate it in this way. Now we have a demand for work clarified, right? In a rough share of attention of the whole organization. Now each of you is going to find roles that you fill up at least 100 points or something like that. So if you know sales and marketing is just 50 points, you're going to probably go to find your attention somewhere else. So these are rough mechanisms. This doesn't dictate your time on a 15 minutes basis, but on a week by week or month by month. It can really change the attention and a resource of attention across the organization in a dynamic way, without dictating where people spend time, right? A lot of people get authorities to still, and you still act within your role, but up to a maximum amount of time.
And is there a way to report back on how you've spent those attention banknotes, or like how you going, like how does it then translate to kind of day to day? I can already see how even allocating them would help, but how does it then translate to me switching my priorities and communicating it back to the organization? How do I spend the money, basically?
As you want. Article 1.3, you can decide what's important for you. right? This attention point only says you can do it up to this amount of time. And this works well if you create more currency than there is time available, so people still have the opportunity to choose, right? If I get 10%, 10 points, and that only means I can spend half a day, I don't have much freedom to choose, right? There's a bit of excess currency in the system, and I have 150 points, where 100 points is supposed to be a full day, or full week. I can still make a lot of choices, but I at least know there are a couple of boundaries that I won't spend 100% of my time on sales and marketing, because from the broader perspective, that's not what we find as a collective value. And it just provides talking points. If you think you have a role that deserves more points, great, you have attention, you have a way to address it, to make it tangible, to have that discussion with the leading and say, guys, if I really want to do this, this, and this, it's going to take me more time. And this doesn't say, I stop working when I spent all my time points. It just has a mechanism to create that clarity where attention potentially is spent in the right way. And if not, you have attention, you can change the points, you can evolve it, right? It's just a mechanism to create a lot easier alignment than shouting out priorities. This is on a role level. Holacracy 1 is now developing an impact point system that goes on a project level. You can fund each other with impact points. If I need something from Andrew as Holacracy, hey, do you want to do this? Now that I'm missing. If I give you 10 impact points.
What do you do with impact points though?
So you trade with them, right? It's an internal currency to get people's attention. If I have 600 impact points to get my work done, I can get that work done by others. And you create a mechanism. Now, this attention point is initially a mechanism for lead links to clarify where attention goes within their circle. And then you have discussions about it and you adjust it. This impact point is really role to role.
It's very theory X.
Yeah.
So it is, because it's like you need additional motivation of points in order to do anything.
I don't like it currently. It's too complex for what it tries to solve. You suddenly bring those points on the foreground instead of the why. Why can't I tell you? Simple story.
Why is it important?
Why is this important?
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, we had that yesterday, like I need this kind of stuff to do the workshop and the planning. Yeah, I'll help out. I don't need to give him 10 points. And then,
I think you probably wouldn't do it if you were like, if I give you 10 points, will you do it?
And if you would tie salary to it, it would make it even worse probably. You only get 100% of your salary if you at least cover 500 points.
Yeah, fuck off.
Can you preview the reaction for the camera, please? Because that's a good reaction.
It's a big alignment mechanism, it's a big theory work.
I think it could work in the context of a board game, but then people need to know that it's taken with a huge kind of inverted commas that we're playing with. This is supposed to relay.
Let's face it, there's only one kind of extrinsic motivation that works, and it's the kind that's being piled on the kitchen table over there.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there's a lot of food.
So I'll send you the policy of some of those things, how you can do it. They're phrased pretty nicely that it doesn't really restrict people's time, it just puts a maximum on it. If you have enough excess currency, it's a good way to prioritize resources in a rough way and still allow people to make decisions. Another policy what you could do is if you have projects that take longer than half a day of work, you need to add the ROI to it. Right? To provide that additional transparency on why it is important.
Wow, to be honest,
that's bureaucracy, right?
But it's hugely, that kind of thing, I think it could be amazing, but it's hugely out of our comfort zone at the moment to, like, let's say put an ROI in every project that's half a day and beyond. But like, what little steps could we take to, as you say, get towards more measurement-oriented behavior and to have like that, like ROI and the good of the organization in mind? I think it's going to be a long journey for us, but I'm interested to know like what will be the first steps on it.
So
lunch.
We could start 20 minutes before 1:15 to finish this meeting, because otherwise we won't have any foods because everybody's already started like digging in. Yeah.
I feel it just here.
Right? Shall we continue? Should we meet like at 5 to 1 to continue this? Yeah. Cool.